As creative entrepreneurs, we're always looking for new ways to grow our business, serve our community, and ultimately increase our income. That's partly what led me to starting my Patreon membership for influencers in January of 2022, just about 8 months after I quit my job to pursue content creation full-time. However, after 2.5 years of running my membership, I've recently decided to close its doors. So let's talk about it. I wanted to use today's video to explain why I ultimately decided to close my Patreon membership and also share some things that you should keep in mind if you've been thinking about launching a monthly recurring membership revenue stream in your creator business. If there's one thing I'm really passionate about, it is helping influencers launch and scale passive income streams. In fact, I actually teach a whole course about it. And one of the income streams that we talk about a lot inside my program is memberships. So what exactly is a membership, or what does the membership model look like if you're thinking about launching this income stream as a creator? So in a membership model, this is fan funded. So your audience is paying either each month or maybe a one-time annual fee to join a membership community that you have created. This could be any type of paywall content, so it could be inside of a Patreon like my membership was, it could be on a YouTube membership or an Instagram subscription, or it could be something like a paid email newsletter on Substack. And I, of course, want to tell you a little bit about what my Patreon membership looked like. Essentially, my Patreon was a low-cost way for influencers to get recurring support and resources from me. Plus, I also created and shared exclusive videos for the highest paid tier of my membership to show a more behind-the-scenes look of my influencer business. My Patreon membership had 3 tiers, a $1 tier, a $3 tier, and a $5 tier. And as you paid more, you got access to more resources each month. So in the $1 a month tier, you had access to desktop and mobile wallpapers. In the $3 tier, you also had access to a list of 25 content ideas and a monthly challenge. And in the $5 tier, you also got additional resources and the exclusive video tutorials. Now, the reason I had called this a passive income stream is that I was able to do the bulk of the work for my Patreon at the start of the year. So the 2 years that I launched and had the membership all the way through the year, at the top of the year, I created all of the desktop wallpapers, listed out all of the holidays, and essentially was able to batch create and schedule out everything I would need for the first 2 tiers of my membership, so that the only thing I actively needed to do to maintain this income stream was create 1 resource and 1 video each month for the $5 tier, and also, of course, maintain the community, see if people were leaving comments, asking questions, or having issues at all navigating Patreon. So things were actually running pretty smoothly for the most part. I still had people joining the Patreon, and I was uploading my resources, and there were lots of members still inside the Patreon at the time I decided to close it. So obviously the Patreon was one of my income streams, so you might also be wondering, how much money am I losing by deciding to close my Patreon? Before I share more details, I did want to share something that I think will be helpful to provide additional context. In one of my favorite business books, The 4-Hour Workweek, which is actually right behind me right there on the bookshelf, author Tim Ferriss talks about something that really helped change his mindset in his business and scale back immensely. So the question he asked himself is, which 20% of your sources are causing 80% of your stress and unhappiness? And then which 20% of your sources are causing 80% of your desired outcomes and successes? And hearing that is going to put this into perspective very quickly as to why I ultimately chose to shut down the Patreon membership. So I'll put a graphic on the screen so you can see my income stream breakdown for the last 3 years. So I hadn't yet launched this income stream in 2021, so you won't see it there. In 2022, it was 1.8% of my total income, my Patreon membership. And by 2023, it had only gone up to become 3% of my total income for the year. Now, in my head, when I had first launched the Patreon membership, my goal with it was to ultimately grow it to be a more substantial percentage of my income. I would have been happy if it landed anywhere between 10 and 20% of my total income, because I had found something that was working well for me that I felt I could deliver on each month. However, that just wasn't really the case. And again, this does not perfectly fall into the 80-20 split that Tim Ferriss talks about, but I think it was important to realize that every time I went to go create content for the $5 tier, which was the only thing I needed to do for the Patreon each month other than maintain the community and pay attention to the comments, I felt instantly overwhelmed, and I felt like I was dreading it for reasons I'll get into later in the video. And it just did become a source of stress and unhappiness. And even though it only required a few hours a month of my attention, those few hours a month have already been redirected to things that I feel like are a better fit and that are better serving my business. For example, my new podcast, which I just launched called Create and Consume. I haven't really gotten a chance to talk about it much here on YouTube. I plan to do a launching a podcast journey video at some point, but I'll leave a link to listen down below in case you're interested in checking out this new form of content that I'm creating. Oh, and Create and Consume also has a YouTube channel you can subscribe to, so I will leave that down below as well. So hopefully seeing this in the context of my other income streams makes it pretty clear why I didn't feel like it was necessarily a good use of my time, given that I have other income streams that are a bigger portion of my income that I could be putting more time and attention towards. But I'm curious to hear from you. If you do have a membership, how much of your annual income is coming from your membership income stream? Or what is your top earning income stream right now as a creator? Definitely leave me a comment and let me know. I know that we're all going to have totally different answers, and I would love to hear what you have to say. In this next section of the video, I want to talk about some of the biggest takeaways and top things that I've learned from the membership income stream that I think you might want to take into account or consider if you are thinking about launching a membership, or if maybe you have an existing membership and you're trying to decide if you want to close it or continue on. So my first biggest takeaway really comes down to pricing and the number of members that are inside of your membership. Because for me, at the end of the day, I felt like I would either need to raise the price and then therefore raise the offerings in my membership and put more time into it to justify a new price, or I would need to have a much higher number of paying members to make it really worth my time. In my head, I was thinking that if I could get to 100 paying members each month in my Patreon, that would be a reason to keep it around and something that made sense to sustain the energy that I was putting towards it. However, I never experienced a single month where I had 100 paying members, so that was one of the signs to me that maybe if I couldn't scale it, that I would need to increase the price and the offerings. I should also add that I never increased the price of my Patreon membership in the 2.5 years that I had it active. So the tiers were always $1, $3, and $5, and I never increased the price because I didn't really change the offerings. Personally, for me, I just wasn't in a space where I was excited enough to create new things just for the membership community. I really do feel like some of the things I created in the Patreon could have also been great sections of a YouTube video, or could have been great freebies to put in my email newsletter to grow my list, which doesn't make me money from the jump. Like, my list is free to join and it's not paid, but whenever I do have a paid offer or I do have something that I think content creators would love, it's going in the email newsletter, and the conversion rates on email compared to social media marketing are so much higher. I think the return on investment is about $36 for every $1 spent on email marketing. Similarly, with the exclusive video content I was creating for Patreon, there are so many things that would have been great to put on my YouTube channel. And here on YouTube, I don't really make a big chunk of change from fan funding, although that super thanks button is there if I ever really help you unlock a creative block or help you solve a problem, it is there. But I make most of my money from YouTube either through brand partnerships when they happen or through ad revenue from the YouTube Partner Program. So even if you are not physically handing over money to me, I could still make money if you watch my video because of the ads on it. My word of the year that I chose for 2024 is align, and I've been trying to ask myself over and over again this year, maybe a little too much even, but like, is this something that I feel good about? Is this something I'm excited for? Or do I feel my energies and my creativity being pushed more in other directions? And that was also a big signal to me that it was maybe time to let go of this income stream. The next consideration, if you are starting a membership, is that when you have people paying you each month for something, they are going to expect the same quality of what they're paying for month after month after month. So finding something that you can deliver on and commit to every single month is going to be key in order to retain your paying members and make sure that they feel like they are getting what they are paying for. This is why my low-cost, low-effort Patreon model was working well for me, because I felt for a while like the time I was spending on the membership and the money that I was making from it was all worth the effort. It didn't take me that long to create all of the content for the Patreon, and in return, I was just getting like a little kickback for creating it. However, if you want a membership to be a substantial part of your income, if you want a membership to be like 50% of your total income for the year, you're probably going to be charging people a higher cost for that membership. My highest paid tier was $5 a month, but you might be looking more at like $30 a month, $40 a month, or even higher for your paid members. And in turn, you need to make sure that you're delivering that much value to them month over month. So if you are starting a Patreon membership, what's something that you can deliver the same quality of time and time again so that your paid members feel satisfied with their purchase and want to stay within the membership? Maybe that's even hosting one monthly office hours. If you don't want to create content, maybe the membership is just continual access to, group Zoom coaching calls with you, or group Zoom hangouts even if you're not a coach type content creator. And I think this also ties into making sure you're choosing the right platform for your membership. I actually have a whole other video where I go over the basics of starting a membership, including all of the different platforms you could potentially host a membership on. So I'll link that down below in case you'd like to go watch that next. But I will say that even though I am closing out my membership, Patreon was definitely the right platform for me to host my membership on. One of the biggest pros of creating a membership on Patreon was the ability to schedule out my content. And this was my biggest hesitation with starting an Instagram subscription or a YouTube membership, because actually, there were two hesitations. The first one was the need to remember to create the content each and every month, or to make sure that the expectations were clear if I did choose to pursue one of those membership routes. Because if you are going to do a subscription on Instagram or YouTube, you will need to make sure you remember to create that content. And again, like I was saying before, that you're hopefully delivering the same quality of content to people over and over again. And if you're not clear about what you offer within your subscription or membership, then people might be disappointed or might cancel their recurring monthly payments. My other hesitation about starting a subscription or membership on social media is that I'm already creating so much content on social media for free, and I can't imagine what I would do on those platforms where it would be worth someone paying extra money to see it when they see so much already for free. I would rather someone just join as a follower and help me build my audience than try to make money from my current audience members on a platform like Instagram or YouTube in that way. In addition to that, what I wanted my membership to look like was essentially like a paid resource library that updated each month. So for that reason, I was able to create templates and downloadables and checklists, which wouldn't have been easy for me to distribute on a platform like Instagram or YouTube. And again, with the scheduling features, I would be able to batch create content for months ahead on Patreon and still be posting on there once a week usually, but not actually have to actively remember to do it. And similarly, I was hesitant to start a paid newsletter model like Substack because I am already writing a free weekly newsletter and I write blog posts and I have YouTube. There's a lot going on there already in the sense of written content, and I didn't want there to be a paywall for people to access that when, again, I could make money from newsletter sponsors or blog ads, which I do over on my blog already. And I just always had this perpetual fear about like what would happen if I needed to miss a week or miss a month and people who are paying don't get what they're paying for. You could always give people a heads up, but it's kind of just annoying and it kind of creates like a bump in the road that doesn't necessarily need to be there. And it just wasn't something I ever wanted to do to people who did have monthly payments set up. The only downside for me about hosting on Patreon was all of the fees that were associated with hosting my content there. With the Patreon plan that I was on, where I believe Patreon took 8% of my monthly earnings each month, again, it was free to host on Patreon, but then after people paid, they would take that cut as like a platform hosting fee. And I also had payment processing fees, which I believe was through Stripe for people who, were using their credit cards to pay me each month. So between those two things, it really cut my already pretty small earnings in half. I mean, pretty small, just being no one was paying more than $5 a month to be on the Patreon. And just for context of how the fees ended up shaking out, if I had made $100 a month from the Patreon, I only would have taken home about $83. As far as some things I think I could have done better, number one, marketing my membership. I marketed it quite a lot in the beginning, but over time I just became less and less excited to tell people about it because, again, that upfront payment, like when you're asking your fans or your audience members to hand over their own money to you, it does just feel like something different. It feels like a bit more responsibility versus some of my other income streams. I don't feel that much pressure about, like ad revenue on YouTube. I only get paid if people watch my videos. And again, you're not physically handing over anything to me unless you're sending a super thanks. And that is one of my preferred ways to make money because there's less day-to-day pressure of me thinking about, oh, these people are paying me. It was just crazy because I was starting to get even more stressed out about people who were recurring paying like $5 a month to me than I did when someone booked me for a one-on-one consulting session at my hourly rate, which is much higher than my Patreon. And that's because when someone books me for my hourly rate and I'm spending one-on-one time with them, like I'm all in. I'm able to dedicate myself fully because I am getting compensated fairly for my time at that point. I also have raised my rates over the years and take on fewer one-on-one consulting clients for that reason because there's only one of me and spending that time with one person is going to require my full attention. And for some reason, I was just getting more and more stressed about the thought of everyone who was paying each month to be in the Patreon. And I much prefer one-to-many models. I thought that was why the membership could be good for me. But at the end of the day, I'd rather put that energy towards something like my digital course because that is such a robust and helpful program for people. And it comes at a much higher ticket price than what I would make even if a $5 patron was in my membership for, I need to do some math. Basically, if someone was in my Patreon membership and was paying me $5 a month for 5 years, it still would be like 2/3 of the price of my digital course. I like the one-to-many model where I can create a digital product once and tons of people can buy it, where I can create my digital course and help lots of different students. And the membership model where it was the recurring payments for something that ended up being not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things, only 3% of my income in 2023. That's where I had to take a step back and say, hey, even though this is working okay right now, I don't know if I'm in a position to want to scale this as much as I'd want to put that effort and energy into other areas of my business. But yeah, I absolutely could have marketed the membership more, and I also could have increased the price and added more offerings, but that just wasn't where my heart was at the time, so I figured it would be better just to shut down the Patreon and let everyone know what was going on. If I had really wanted to keep it alive, I think I really would have needed to rework the structure, add new tiers, add new offerings, and I just wasn't really in a place where I felt like that was my move. I just really feel more drawn to some of these other income streams that have been growing and doing well for me over the years. So even being able to take 3% of that effort, like 3% of my income from 2023 and put that effort back into some of these other income streams is what I would rather be doing. Having more income streams isn't always better. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for about this Patreon experience is that I have learned how a membership works, and I can explain to other people now like what the pros and cons are of having a membership, and I've gone through that experience. And if you are thinking about starting a membership, I would just say go in with your exit plan. And this might sound a little pessimistic, but that's exactly what I did. The first thing I asked myself when I launched my Patreon was, what am I going to do if one day I decide I don't want to do this anymore? And I'm so glad that I did that because it allowed me to prepare along the way and prepare for this moment if it ever came, and it did. I'll share the Patreon closing announcement that I put on the screen where I notified my members of what was happening. I gave everyone a month's notice to download any resources that they wanted to access, and I also gave them a way to access all of the video content. So they're not going to lose access to the videos. They're still going to have access to the resources as long as they download them. And this is something that I was able to plan and prepare for ahead of time. So I have a library of the video content that is not hosted on Patreon for my patrons to access even after the membership closes, and that they're able to download all of those resources with plenty of time. Also, in my closing announcement, I shared a bunch of other ways to stay in touch with me / get support from me in whatever way is best for that person. So if they were looking for more paid resources, they could look to my digital products, my course, or one-on-one consulting. And if they were looking for more free resources, since it was such a low-cost membership, I listed out my freebie, the Influencer Launchpad, which we talk about here quite a lot. My YouTube channel obviously is a huge resource, and the section of my blog where I do blog posts about content creation as well. Now that you've heard what I have to say, definitely let me know your thoughts about the membership income stream down below in the comments. I would really love to hear from you guys, especially from any of you who have had great success with a membership. I think that's awesome because I have tried it myself now and realized that it is not as easy as it looks to maintain. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. I post every single week, and give it a thumbs up. And you can also subscribe to my free email list that I mentioned in this video. More freebies and fun stuff to come on there now that it is not hidden behind a paywall. I'm going to be reworking some of those freebies and think about how I can use them in my email newsletter and help build my list in that way. And if you are thinking about launching a Patreon, starting an Instagram subscription, or creating a Substack, definitely go watch my video all about memberships as the up next recommendation on the screen if you're interested. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.